I beat Elden Ring a few days ago on the PC for the first time in preparation for the DLC, and wow, what a brilliant game. I want to talk about the experience, why it took me 2 years and a totally different platform to just finish a playthrough. Did I play it wrong? Probably, and just in general about the Souls series and why it's so special. So sit back, cozy commentary, congrats, you made it. Shadow of the Erdtree is releasing. Let's hop in. I picked up Elden Ring on the Xbox One years ago at launch and put about 40 hours into a strength playthrough. And I went full unga bunga, and it was wonderful. I got to about Lane-Dell and put the game down, and never really came back to it over the last few years. I saw all the incredible reviews, all the hype, but for whatever reason, I just didn't feel motivated to finish it. Which is strange because I love Dark Souls 1 and 2, some of my favorite games of all time. DS3 is great, Bloodborne and Sekiro I didn't really get to play a whole bunch of. But Elden Ring to me at launch was both incredible and frustrating. I was so used to the linear-ish nature of like a traditional Souls game. Being given a mount, being able to sort of just skip any of the big open world bosses that you wanted and go in whatever order you could, and then discovering cave after cave after cave. It just felt insane to me. Like there was so much to do to the point where I really was in analysis paralysis. There was so much choice that I was always wondering, am I doing the right thing? Am I in the wrong place? And I could have resolved a lot of this a few years ago by looking at a guide, but I didn't. Mainly because when I played Dark Souls 1 for the first time, it was a recommendation from a good Halo friend. Some of you OG longtime Halo YouTube viewers may remember Toast Bomb. I was on a podcast with Toast Bomb, and he was excited Dark Souls 2 was coming out. I was like, what is that? Is it worth playing? And he's like, dude, go get Prepare to Die edition for PC and try Dark Souls 1. Don't look anything up, no spoilers, dive into it blind. And later that day, I did. And it was one of the most memorable moments in gaming for me. I think Dark Souls 1, from Firelink until Ornstein and Smough, is probably one of the best sequences in all of video games. And I wish I had some of that old footage because I was streaming it at the time, and you can imagine I was absolutely horrible. But I didn't look up guides, I learned things myself, and I will never forget the feeling of kicking that ladder down and discovering the level design and brilliance that FromSoft has with these games. Now, lucky for me, I was late to the party with Dark Souls 1, and so Dark Souls 2 had just come out. I was able to finish my Prepare to Die edition run and immediately get a 360 copy of Dark Souls 2. And I ripped through that game so fast. I loved it. Immediately started another playthrough, started doing PvP, and then Scholar of the First Sin came out, and I picked that up on the Xbox One and did another couple of playthroughs. And I know Dark Souls 2 is very commonly criticized as one of the weaker ones in the series. It probably was the honeymoon phase of Souls games for me, but I love Dark Souls 2. I respect DS1 more, but Dark Souls 2, for whatever reason, just landed so well with me. If you ever need to focus while you're working, just turn on the Majula music in the background. It's so prime. All right, so fast forward back to Elden Ring. So much choice. Am I doing the right thing? Where's my linear, usual nature of all of this stuff? I ultimately put the game down. I've heard nothing but incredible things. I've known Elden Ring is just great, but man, when life is stressful, sometimes Souls games just aren't as fun to play. You don't necessarily want to bang your head against a wall if you're already doing that regularly. Maybe it's at school or at work or at home. Like, if you're going through a lot of stressful stuff, challenge isn't always the thing that you want to seek, even though a lot of times those challenges can be really good in those tough times. And I think that really is why Elden Ring didn't land with me the very first time. I just didn't really want to put the work in that is required to beat the game. The time, the effort, the learning, the lessons, refining your build, all of those things. And most importantly, your own gameplay. because when I came back and I beat Elden Ring on PC, it was a very sloppy playthrough. I remember I played so much DS2 back in the day, how it feels when you get in the rhythm of good dodge rolls, being patient, not panic rolling, not panic healing, and just playing a Souls game well. I still haven't really landed that under my feet. Even through like the whole new Elden Ring PC playthrough, I'm still playing pretty sloppy. I'm gonna have to tighten it up quite a bit going into Shadow of the Erdtree. I opted to go with the Naga Kiba and Bloodflame Blade for most of the playthrough. It was very fun. I didn't do any bleed stuff the last time I had played through the game, and yes, I know this is considered not like the optimal way to play through Elden Ring, and you know, looking back, I probably would have liked to do a sword and board or sort of like another strength build or something like that, but it was so cool to see how different the game was using a different build. And yeah, let me just say, the difference between 30 FPS and 60 FPS Elden Ring is crazy on the gameplay department. 60 FPS just feels so much better and easier, and I feel like you can absolutely get away with a little bit more. You can wait for that dodge roll just a tiny bit longer, and it's well worth it if you've got the ability to play it on a platform that supports 60 FPS. And I tried to do it as pure as possible, at least until the last couple of bosses where I did bring in some co-op summons, but immediately I'm like, no, I want to go back and do that by myself. No summons, no nothing, try and do this right. And that's what jumps out at me about Souls games and Elden Ring, and honestly why they're so brilliant. You get out of it sort of what you want to. I learned with Elden Ring on a second playthrough, there's so many different kinds of builds that let you play this game pretty much however you want. And there's a lot of thoughts in the community about the right and wrong way to play the game. Honestly, if you're having fun, then that's the right way to play the game. Maybe you're a caster build and you're sending spells and just nuking things from a distance. I get a lot of fun out of the melee side and dodge rolling from the game, but there are others who love the casting portion. Maybe you love bringing in the mimic tier and doing all of the little bell summon things. There's some players who are like, no, you can't do that. That's not the pure experience. And some who are like, just whatever, do your thing. And I think that is what is so cool about Elden Ring. It can be extremely hard depending on how you set things up and the sort of requirements and restrictions you put on yourself. Or honestly, it can be pretty easy. If you co-op each boss, if you do certain builds, you can just breeze through this game. And ultimately, I took this in sort of a life lesson way because remember, you can get out of a lot of situations what you want to out of it. A lot of it is just down to your mindset. Are you putting unfair restrictions on yourself? Little guidelines and things that, oh, I have to do it this way because it's the proper way to do it. And then you have to ask yourself, why are you putting those restrictions on? Is it pressure from outside? Is it social things? So just think reflexively, because I do think Souls games extend a lot of lessons into real life about perseverance, overcoming challenges, determination, discipline. So many of these traits can carry beyond the game into your real life. At the end of the journey, sitting on the Elden throne, all I could think about was the next playthrough that I want to do. And if the DLC wasn't releasing, I would have started New Game Plus right away, changed the build, and gone right back in again. It lived up to the expectations. The art design, the legacy dungeons, most of the bosses are just phenomenal. The open world stuff is not my favorite. I feel like a lot of the caves were just a dime a dozen. Some were good, some weren't. They felt like FromSoft's first foray into open world. So hopefully Shadow of the Erdtree improves on some of that stuff. But at the end of the journey, all I could think was 10 out of 10. What a brilliant game. What a cool experience. Well worth the entry cost. I really want to thank two people from the Discord, Masco and Speedwack, for the recommendations. And then I want to thank you for watching this video. I know it's not the usual stuff that we do on the channel, but hopefully you got some enjoyment out of this. If so, let me know. Subscribe for more. Enjoy the DLC if you're playing it, and have a great weekend.